Welcome to our deep dive into the history of our solar system. And I gotta say, I think this one's gonna be pretty wild. You sent in some really interesting research this time around. 3 articles, actually. And they all kind of paint this picture of our cosmic neighborhood being way more dynamic, even kind of dangerous than we usually think about.
Yeah, it's true. We tend to think of our solar system as this stable and unchanging place. But these articles really highlight just how much action's been happening, like right in our backyard, cosmically speaking, of course. I mean, we're talking close calls with interstellar clouds, stars straight up eating planets, wild stuff.
Okay, so let's just jump right in with that first article then, the one from Nature Astronomy.
Yeah.
It basically suggests that a few million years back, Earth might have had this close encounter with an interstellar cloud. And I'm not gonna lie, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie or something.
It does have that kind of vibe, doesn't it? Well, the researchers, they found evidence suggesting that our solar system went right through this region. It's called the local links of cold clouds, LXCCs for short, about 2, maybe 3 million years ago. You got to picture this cloud of interstellar gas, way denser and colder than what our solar system is moving through right now.
Whoa, okay, hold on. You're telling me we basically flew through a cosmic fog a few million years back.
Pretty much, yeah. And get this, simulations show that the heliosphere, that protective bubble the sun's solar wind creates, well, during this whole passage, it would shrunk like crazy, maybe even smaller than Earth's orbit.
So Earth would have been totally exposed, just out there in the open.
Exactly. I mean, all those inner planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, they would have been right in the path of this cold, dense interstellar gas. And researchers are really interested in what that means for Earth, for its climate and atmosphere.
Yeah, I have a feeling that can't be good news.
Not really, no. For one thing, all that extra interstellar hydrogen could have messed with the chemistry of our atmosphere. It might have even messed with the ozone layer, which would have had huge consequences for, well, everything, really.
Okay, so this close call with the LXCCs, is that connected to any climate events in Earth's history that we already know about?
Well, it's a real possibility, and it's worth looking into for sure. The timing lines up with some major climate shifts in Earth's past, and this new research might just give us a whole new way of understanding how those shifts happened in the first place.
So this LXCCs thing, it's not just some random cloud, right? What's the bigger picture here?
You're right, it's not isolated. Scientists think LXCCs is part of this much larger structure. It's called the local ribbon of cold clouds, and it stretches across a huge part of the sky. Based on what we know about its distance and how fast it's moving, it seems very likely that our solar system got up close and personal with this ribbon, and that probably affected the whole inner solar system.
Okay, so we've got these interstellar clouds kind of brushing past us. But this next article, this one takes things to a whole other level. We're talking about a star that actually swallowed a planet.
Oh yeah, this one's pretty dramatic. This article, it's from Nature, and it describes scientists seeing a star swallow a planet for the very first time. And it happened right here in our own Milky Way galaxy. The unlucky planet was a gas giant, kind of like Jupiter.
Okay, wow. I mean, how does a star even eat a planet? That sounds pretty intense.
Well, it's all part of how stars evolve. You see, as they age, stars can get a lot bigger, turning into what we call red giants. And if a planet's orbiting too close to its star when that happens, you can get caught in this expanding atmosphere and, well, basically spiral inwards and get consumed by the star.
So this isn't like some crazy fluke. This actually happens.
Scientists think it's probably pretty common across the universe. We've never actually seen it until now, but chances are a lot of planets meet this kind of fiery end.
Wow. How'd scientists even catch this whole cosmic dinner in action, though?
So the whole event, it caused this bright infrared outburst that lasted for about 100 days. And by analyzing the light from that, scientists were able to spot the specific chemical signature of the planet's material getting absorbed by the star. It's kind of like a cosmic autopsy, revealing the leftovers of a devoured planet.
That is both fascinating and terrifying. Makes you wonder what else is going on out there, stuff we haven't even seen yet. But speaking of seeing things, let's jump to that third article. This one's all about new ways to find these interstellar objects. We've had Oumuamua and Borisov, but finding them seems like it's mostly been a matter of luck so far.
That's true. But this astrobiology article dives into some really cool, innovative techniques that could change how we find these interstellar travelers, completely revolutionize it.
Okay, I'm definitely curious. What are these new methods?
Well, one that's really interesting involves looking for what we call stellar occultations.
Occultations. Sounds mysterious. What's that all about?
Basically, we can keep an eye on how bright stars are and look for these little dips in their brightness. Those dips happen when an interstellar object passes right in front of a star and blocks a teeny tiny bit of its light.
So like a mini eclipse caused by something from another solar system. That's pretty awesome. Anything else?
Oh yeah, another cool technique focuses on what we call interstellar meteors. These are tiny pieces of interstellar stuff that enter Earth's atmosphere and burn up.
Hold on, you mean bits of other solar systems could be like raining down on us?
Exactly. By studying the light that comes from these meteors as they burn up, or even finding meteorites that make it to the ground, we could actually learn about what those objects from beyond our solar system are made of.
That's incredible. It's like we're getting deliveries from other worlds right to our doorstep. Are there any other tricks up our sleeve for finding these interstellar visitors?
You bet. Believe it or not, we can use the moon like a giant detector. We watch for flashes of light that happen when interstellar objects crash into the lunar surface. That tells us stuff about their size, speed, what they're made of. It's like the moon's been keeping track of every interstellar object that bumps into it.
The moon is a cosmic detective board. I love it. Okay, now hit me with the most mind-blowing method. What's the wildest idea out there?
All right, this one might sound like something straight out of science fiction. Scientists are actually exploring the possibility of using neutron stars to detect interstellar objects. Those are the super dense leftovers of dead stars.
Wait, hold on. Using dead stars to find interstellar objects, how on earth does that even work?
It's a bit complicated, but the basic idea is that when an interstellar object smashes into a neutron star, it can create these detectable radio signals. And those signals, they can tell us things about how big the object was and what it was made of.
Okay, now that is truly mind-blowing. With all these new techniques, it really feels like we're about to enter a whole new era of interstellar object research.
I think you're absolutely right. Imagine being able to study not just one or two of these objects, but hundreds, maybe even thousands. That could completely change how we understand where they come from, what they're made of, and what they can tell us about the galaxy as a whole.
Welcome back to our deep dive, into this really fascinating world of interstellar objects. And we've only just started. Like, there's so much more to discover here.
I know, it's mind-blowing to think about stuff like Oumuamua and Borisov just, like, flying through space for millions, maybe billions of years before they even got to our solar system.
Each one's like this record, right? A story about where it came from, what it's been through. It's traveled through this crazy interstellar environment.
Like, they're these cosmic messages in a bottle, just waiting for us to figure them out. And with all these new ways to find them that we were talking about, it feels like we're finally getting closer to actually reading those messages. Absolutely. It's a really exciting time to be studying these things. And, speaking of Oumuamua and Borisov, they were pretty different from each other. Oumuamua, with that crazy long shape and the way it moved, really threw scientists for a loop.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, for a while, there were even some people saying it could be like an alien spaceship or something.
Oumuamua definitely made us rethink what these interstellar objects could look like. But then, boom, a couple years later, we get Borisov, and it's almost like something we'd seen before.
Borisov was more like a comet that we're used to, right? It had that tail of gas and dust. Does that tell us anything about where these things come from?
It suggests that at least some of them, they probably form in ways that are kind of similar to how comets form in our solar system. The most popular theory right now is that most of these objects, they get ejected from planetary systems. Maybe when they're first forming or even later on.
So it's like a giant game of cosmic billiards.
Yeah.
Stuff getting flung out into space.
Yeah. Exactly. Think about those early days when a planetary system's forming. It's total chaos. Huge planets moving around. Smaller stuff like comets and asteroids getting scattered everywhere by gravity. And some of that smaller stuff, it gets tossed right out of the system altogether, becoming these interstellar travelers.
And it doesn't just happen when the system's first forming, right?
Yeah.
This ejection thing, it can happen later on, too.
You got it. Like, let's say a star passes too close to another star's planetary system. That can mess up the orbits of planets and other things, causing some of them to get ejected. And then, as stars get old and turn into those red giants, they can swallow up their inner planets and maybe even fling their outer planets way out there.
So there are like multiple ways for these objects to get kicked out of their home systems and become these interstellar wanderers.
Right. But there are also some scientists who think that maybe some interstellar objects, they form all on their own without ever being part of a planetary system.
Really? That's pretty wild. How would something even form out in interstellar space all by itself?
Well, one idea is that they could come from these interstellar gas clouds collapsing, kind of like how stars form. But instead of becoming a big hot star, the cloud breaks up into smaller, colder pieces.
So instead of a giant sun, you get a cosmic snowball.
Yeah, something like that. Another idea is that some of these interstellar objects, they might be leftovers from stars that never quite made it, what we call brown dwarfs. They're too small to become actual stars, but they can still be pretty big.
So like somewhere between a planet and a star.
Yeah, exactly. And these brown dwarfs, they could shed material, creating a cloud of smaller stuff that just drifts off into space. It's amazing to think that all the objects we're finding out there could have come from such different places.
It makes you wonder what stories each one could tell if we could just understand them. But what about their trip through space? Through interstellar space. It's got to be pretty lonely and rough out there.
It's definitely not easy. The interstellar medium, it's mostly empty space, but there are these random atoms and molecules and dust grains floating around, and even those tiny particles, they can have an impact over millions or billions of years.
It's like a slow cosmic sandblasting, just wearing away at these objects as they travel.
Yeah, you could say that. All those tiny collisions over time, they can erode the surface, changing the object's shape and what it's made of. And then there's the radiation too, cosmic rays and ultraviolet light from stars far away.
It's a constant fight to survive out there. It's amazing that any of these objects make it through billions of years in those harsh conditions and then eventually, stumble into our solar system.
It really is remarkable, and that makes me think, what if we didn't just find these objects, but what if we could actually study them up close?
Now you're talking. Is it even possible to send a mission to, intercept one of these interstellar objects and check it out directly?
There are some pretty ambitious plans being developed right now. One that's gotten a lot of attention is called Project Lyra, and it involves using something called a solar sail to catch up to an interstellar object.
A solar sail? What's that?
It's basically this big reflective sheet that uses the power of sunlight to push a spacecraft. The idea is to park a spacecraft with a solar sail somewhere strategic in our solar system, and then wait for us to spot an interstellar object on a good path. Then, the spacecraft would unfurl its sail and use the sunlight to speed up and catch the object.
Like a cosmic windsurfer.
Yeah.
Riding a beam of light. So once the spacecraft reaches the object, what could it do?
Oh, all sorts of scientific stuff. We could analyze what it's made of, maybe even land on it and collect samples. Imagine studying material from another solar system. We could learn so much about the environment where it came from.
That would be incredible. But I bet there's some serious challenges to actually making something like that happen.
Definitely. Intercepting an interstellar object is super tricky. They're usually moving really fast, and we can't always predict where they're going. Plus, even once we find one, it could take years to get a mission ready and launched. It's a race against time to get a spacecraft to the right spot before the object zooms past us.
And the technology itself, right? Building those solar sails, designing a spacecraft that can basically fly itself across huge distances, it sounds crazy hard.
It's a huge engineering challenge, but think about what we could learn. The payoff, the chance to study something that's been traveling through interstellar space for billions of years. It's like opening a time capsule from the early universe.
It would completely change how we think about planetary systems, how diverse things are out there in the galaxy, maybe even about the possibility of life beyond Earth.
Speaking of life, we've been focusing on the physical stuff, but what about the idea that these objects could have evidence of life itself?
Okay, now that's really exciting. Is that even remotely possible?
Scientists are definitely taking it seriously. The chances are small, but it's possible, right? An interstellar object could be carrying something like dormant microbes, or even fossils of ancient life.
That would be the biggest discovery ever. What would we even be looking for?
Things like complex organic molecules, specific types of atoms, maybe even tiny structures that look like fossilized cells.
Like finding a needle in a cosmic haystack. But I can only imagine how exciting it would be if we actually found something.
It would be huge, a monumental moment for science. It could change our whole understanding of life in the universe.
This deep dive is really making me realize how much we don't know about the universe. All this incredible stuff that might be out there, waiting to be found.
That's what makes exploration so cool, right? Every new discovery, it makes us appreciate the universe even more, how complex and beautiful it is. And it opens up new paths for us to explore.
This whole conversation has really got me thinking. What else is out there? What secrets are these interstellar objects hiding?
Those are the questions that drive scientists and anyone who loves space. And, with more research and exploration, I think we're closer than ever to finding those answers.
Well, I'm ready to go even deeper. What else can you tell us about this amazing subject? So we've talked a lot about these interstellar objects, like where they come from, their crazy journeys, all the cool new ways we're figuring out how to find them. It feels like we're on the edge of discovering some really big things.
I think so too. And you know what? It's important to take a step back sometimes and think about the big picture, the really big picture. Like, what do these interstellar travelers tell us about the universe? What does it all mean?
That's a great point. It's one thing to study them one by one, but yeah, what do they tell us about, like, the grand scheme of things?
Well, one of the biggest things they tell us is that our solar system isn't special. Finding these interstellar objects, it proves that planetary systems are all over the galaxy.
Yeah, it makes sense, but it's still wild to think about, right? All those stars, all those planets, who knows what's out there?
Exactly. And with so many planetary systems, chances are there are lots of planets like Earth out there too.
So you're probably not alone in the universe.
That's what it looks like. And that's a really big deal when we're searching for life out there, extraterrestrial life. If the things that life needs, water, organic molecules, energy sources, if those are common, then life itself could be a lot more common than we used to think.
And it might not even be life like we know it, right?
Yeah.
These interstellar objects could be carrying life that's totally alien to us, stuff that evolved under completely different conditions.
Exactly. Imagine life forms with totally different chemistry or things that live in environments we'd consider extreme. It's pretty amazing to think about.
Speaking of amazing, we got to talk about the big question of what everyone's thinking about. Could some of these objects be artificial? I know it's a controversial topic, but Oumuamua really got people talking about that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oumuamua's weird shape and the way it moved, it definitely made people wonder. And some scientists even considered the possibility that it was made by something intelligent. Even though most of what we saw can be explained naturally, it's important to stay open-minded.
So we're not saying aliens are definitely out there, but we're not ruling it out either.
That's how good science works. You gotta be skeptical, but also be open to new ideas. And that's what drives projects like the Galileo Project. They're actively looking for proof of alien technology.
So the Galileo Project, they're searching for stuff like Oumuamua, things that might show signs of being artificial.
Yep, exactly. They're using telescopes to search for anything unusual, looking at data from old sky surveys, even coming up with plans for missions that could, fly out and check out these potential alien artifacts.
It's both exciting and a little bit scary to think that we might actually find evidence of an alien civilization.
It would be a huge turning point for humanity. It would change how we see ourselves and our place in the universe.
This deep dive has been really eye-opening. It's amazing how these objects, things that used to be just science fiction, they're now telling us so much about the universe and where we fit in.
And we're just getting started. As technology gets better and we keep exploring space, who knows what we'll find out there.
I can't wait to see what the future holds for this kind of research. I think we're going to make some amazing discoveries, the kind that change everything we thought we knew about space.
Me too. The next few decades are going to be awesome for space exploration. We're going to dive deeper into the mysteries of interstellar space and uncover all the secrets these cosmic travelers are holding. It's going to be wild.
It's been awesome exploring all this with you. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the amazing world of interstellar objects. Don't stop looking up, keep asking questions, and never stop exploring the incredible universe we live in.